and welcome everyone. I'm SOG, Senior Engineer at Synergen OG. In this video, I'll be talking about barrier risk management using the BowTie method. The BowTie diagram, shaped in the form of a bow tie, is a simple way for communicating the relationship between risk events, their causes and consequences. It provides a clear, graphical representation of how we can lose control of our process and what barriers we have in place to prevent this from happening. This method helps to visualize complex risks in an understandable diagram and can be used in various industries. There are 6 key elements in the BowTie model: hazard, top event, threat, consequence, barrier, and escalation factor. It starts at the center, which illustrates the hazard and top event. Hazard represents a parameter of something that has the potential to cause harm in any form, such as ill health, injury, damage to the environment, or financial impact. Below the hazard sits the top event. Top event usually involve a change of state, which implicates a deviation from the desired state or activity. They describe the point in time when control over the hazard is lost. When you are naming the hazard, it is best to use commonly accepted terminology that can be understood by other parts of the organization. You can also provide situational context, such as describing the phase of an activity, type of equipment, as well as providing an indication of scale, for example, quantity, weight, or criticality. Defining the hazard is an important step, as it sets the scope of your bow tie. Here we have an example, working at height as a hazard, which has the potential to cause harm if a person falls from height while working. A hazard that is generic can be applied to activities of similar nature, while a specific hazard will end up in having multiple dedicated bow ties. The level of abstraction should be agreed among the team based on the intended outcome of the risk assessment. The next step in the bow tie methodology is to think of ways how this top event can occur. What can cause a top event? These are termed as threats. Things to keep in mind is that threats should be direct and independent. For example, corrosion, material fatigue, mechanical failure. It is something we protect ourselves against by implementing barriers. It should be noted that barrier failures are not threats. For example, inspection not done is not a threat but a barrier failure. Inspection are barriers in place that prevent threats from leading to a top event. On the right-hand side are the consequences. These are the unwanted events resulting from the release of a hazard. For example, fatalities, injuries, equipment damage, environmental damage, or reputation damage. This is the basic framework of a bow tie diagram. You can do a sense check by asking, do these threats trigger the top event? And does this top event result in any of the consequences? Once the basic framework is set up, barriers can be introduced. Barriers on the left-hand side is known as preventative barriers, capable of preventing a threat developing into a top event. Mitigative barriers are barriers on the right-hand side, capable of completely mitigating the consequences or reducing its severity. Barriers should be described such a way that they are independent of one another, which means that each barrier alone can block the top event in an ideal scenario. However, barriers are not 100% reliable and they can fail. It is therefore more effective to have several control measures in place. It is easy to identify weak spots using the bow tie management method. In this example, there is only one barrier to prevent threat number 3 from developing into a top event. This suggests that additional barriers may be required. Bow tie can be used to analyze barrier failure by examining their degradation factors, or also known as escalation factors in bow tie. This is a condition that defeats or reduces the effectiveness of a barrier. These don't cause an event to happen directly, but they can lead to failure of a barrier. It is a cliche, but a picture paints 1,000 words. The visualization of risk makes it much easier to understand, therefore can be communicated easily to all levels within the organization. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this information useful. See you in the next one.